Am I the antagonist for not wanting to pay half for a shared fence? Several weeks ago, one of my dogs got into my neighbor's yard. Unknown to me, the neighbor had someone house sitting, Sue, with their dog. The neighbor, Ned, called me and said my dog had attacked the other dog and that I needed to go get him. I apologized profusely because my dog should not be in his yard and asked if anyone was hurt and started driving immediately. The whole drive I could not believe my dog had attacked anyone or thing, but I wasn't there and wasn't going to argue. Ned had no details as he was out of town other than he kept saying my dog attacked the other. I'm shocked because none of my 3 dogs has ever attacked another dog, not to mention if my other 2 dogs thought the one was attacking or being attacked, logic dictates they would have jumped in too because the one in the yard is the widest, so the others would have easily followed. I get to the house and Sue answered she had no injuries or signs of blood, and her dog comes up to me. I start asking questions and checking the medium-sized dog over, finding no blood, no injuries. The dog isn't shying away from me, showing signs of pain. Nothing, and talking to Sue, she said her dog was fine, and that mine was actually really sweet, and she had no issues getting them apart or blocking off where he got in. I asked if she knew what happened and she said no, just that her dog had made a distressing noise and she went out and called her dog in. I asked where mine got in, and it was in a place that I hadn't had loose boards before. It was an old fence original to the house, 1972. The nails were on my side, so for multiple boards to come loose, the only logical explanation is the visiting dog and/or my dogs were jumping against it and shook the nails out. I apologized to her again and walk him to the house. My dog had a scratch in the inside of his ear that became infected, and we still are trying to get the infection to go away, mostly because the other 2 are licking it too much. Well, almost a week later I get an angry text from Ned that he's at the emergency vet because the dog's wound is pus-filled. What wound? And the vet needs shot records. I sent them over. He then sends me a text that I need to get rid of all my dogs because they are vicious and a danger because I haven't trained them, which is BS, as I've been to dog parks, friends' houses with dogs, traveled to other states with all 3, and have never had an issue. He then said he was going to call around for fence quotes. I was then informed this week that the fence company was coming with no notice. He now expects me to pay half for a fence I had no say in materials, quote, cost, and have been shown no paperwork. He also made the decision to add metal wire fencing material to my side of the fence that makes absolutely no sense at all. I'm just expected to take his word for the expense and just go along with it. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to contribute to the cost that I had no say in? If I were you, I would ask for evidence from the vet concerning dog injuries and cause. Ned cannot just demand you pay for half of a fence you have not inspected nor approved. Do not agree to any payments until you have all the information and facts. Talk to Sue again. Not the antagonist. Get legal advice now. Buy cameras to gather evidence. Ask for all fence quotes and materials decisions before agreeing to pay. Good luck. Would I be the antagonist for calling my mom out about her wedding? My husband and I live 3 miles away from my family for background. So my daughter, who is 4 months old, was born with a very serious heart defect that we knew would require open heart surgery shortly after birth. We are fortunately able to put it off until this April to give her more time to grow. My mother has been very much in the loop of this timeline and known since Christmas time that her surgery would be in April. In March, she randomly called me up, saying she was going to fly down and visit us in April with her longtime boyfriend. I reminded her our daughter will be having surgery around then, and that it's important she's not exposed to extra germs and etc. She casually tells me that she already bought tickets and tells me she'll here between X and Y dates. I was not asked, I was told. I should clarify that they are strictly coming to visit, not help out with my other kids during my daughter's surgery. She wants to visit the beach, go to the aquarium, etc. while they're here. I'm expected to play hostess. I was annoyed AF at this point, but let it roll off my shoulders. If she happens to be here when her surgery is taking place, and the 1 a week she'll be inpatient afterwards recovering, her loss. I'm absolutely not leaving my daughter's side, and it's her wasted trip. Yesterday I get a text from my grandpa, also not local, stating he'll be coming down that week too, along with 2 other aunts for my mom's wedding. I was completely blindsided by this wedding. I was informed that my aunts will all be meeting up at my home on specific dates, times related to wedding stuff. Have I mentioned my daughter is having open heart surgery in that time? I texted my mom for clarification and she laughed it off saying, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you we decided to get married while we're down there." I'm livid at this point. Livid that I found out through my grandpa, and that I wasn't asked first. Livid that my mom is putting my daughter's health at risk by trying to expose her immunocompromised self to a ton of new people right before a life-threatening surgery. Livid that at no point did she stop to think that I might just want to focus on my daughter and the fact that they are stopping her heart that week instead of a stupid wedding that was planned last minute. Would I be the antagonist for calling my mom out? I guess I really just want her to know how hurt I am that she's valuing her trip and wedding more than my daughter's health and my own struggles. I've literally never felt more unimportant to her than I do now. She just literally doesn't seem to give a shit about what we're all going through, and I want her to know it for no other reason than I just want to be heard. At the same time, another part of me just wants to bite my tongue and not ruin her day. Not the antagonist, but I suggest sending a message preemptively to all family members explaining that due to your daughter's upcoming major heart surgery, you must restrict visits to prevent infection. Simply state that you will be unavailable during this period and will catch up with everyone later in the year. Set your phone on Do Not Disturb and focus on taking care of your daughter. Make it clear that you will not allow any family members to visit your home before or after the surgery, emphasizing the need to prioritize your daughter's health. I told my stepson couldn't call me dad, now my GF is upset with me. Hello everyone, I need some perspective here because I am genuinely at a loss at whether I made a big mistake and how I can make it up to my girlfriend. Context: I, male 23, am engaged to the love of my life, Olivia, female 21. She has a son, 6, who I will call Noah. Noah is a great kid, he's funny and amazing, and him and I have a great relationship. He always has a very solid relationship with his father, who he aims to see every fortnight. Dad hasn't turned up the last 3 times. When Olivia and I started dated, she made it very clear she was not looking for father figure for her son. She said I needed to have a good relationship with him, but should not try to take over the role of father for him, as he already has one. This I have respected, and though we do many father-son activities together, camping, hiking, swimming, bike riding, and have a very good relationship, I have always tried to follow Olivia's lead with raising him. Now, while we were eating tea last night and having a bit of a celebration because Noah and I broke up from school for Easter, I am a teacher. He out of the blue calls me dad. It was something that IDK seemed casual, like, "Dad, can you pass over the cheese?" I stopped for a second and looked at him like, "Oh, did you mean to call me that?" You would be shocked by the amount of times I'm called dad, and even sometimes mom lol, by the children in my class by accident. I smiled, passed over the cheese and said, "I'm a name, not dad silly," and he replied back, "I wish you were my dad." I smiled again and just said, "You have a great dad who loves you, but I will always be here." And we smiled at each other. I looked over to Olivia, who looked furious at me. She stormed off upstairs and I was genuinely confused as to what I did wrong, because I thought that is how she would have wanted me to respond to him. We ended up having a huge argument. She claimed I didn't love Noah because I wouldn't let him call me dad. Even after I tried to explain, I was just trying to follow what she told me she wanted at the start of the relationship, and she said, well, things are different now. She ended up leaving and going to stay with her sister, taking Noah with her. I haven't slept all night, just trying to think what I should have done. I've sent a text over saying I'm sorry, but she hasn't responded. I don't know what I did to make her react like this. She is literally never emotional like this. Your fiancé seems to be overreacting and not communicating effectively. It's important for you to talk to her and express your feelings calmly. If she continues to be unreasonable and doesn't apologize, it may be time to reconsider the relationship. The child's feelings are important, and it's clear that you care for him deeply. It's crucial to have open communication and establish clear boundaries with her moving forward. Am I the antagonist for agreeing with what my sister accused our mom of? When my sister and I were about 10, me, and 12, her mother went back to work. She met this guy called Mark, and the two of them became very close. After a couple of years, we started to question if our mother was having an affair. Our father suspected she might be. It was a big conflict in our parents' marriage. Maybe it wasn't a full-blown affair, but even our father suggested if it wasn't a physical affair, it was an emotional one, and I tend to agree. Our mother and Mark would get very flirty with each other, and she invited him to everything as a family friend. Our father and Mark did not get along, and Mark used to tease our father that he was so uptight and possessive to be so bothered by harmless flirting. Our parents' marriage was never the same. They even separated for a while but got back together. When I was 19, my father passed away from a brain aneurysm. Mark was at the house right after it happened, and our mother even had him sit with us during the funeral. She told us he was her best friend, despite the fact her other best friend, someone we all loved, was not asked to sit with us. This was my mother's lifelong friend Abby. Abby claimed our mother saw Mark as a brother. 2 years later, our mother announced she and Mark were a couple. It didn't come as a surprise, but my sister and I didn't really like or truly support the relationship. We said nothing, but our mother picked up on it. She noticed it more apparently when they got married 18 months later. Now they have been married for almost 3 years, and the whole thing became a heated debate because my sister is getting married and really hasn't included our mother in anything wedding related and has made it very clear when asked that Mark has no role in her wedding at all. This led our mother to confront my sister about the change in relationship, and my sister told her she just sees her relationship with Mark as proof that they were never just friends with a sibling bond. She said people don't date people they have a close sibling relationship with. My sister told her she didn't believe they never had an affair, and she basically showed our father disrespect by getting with Mark. She said moving on with anyone else would have been different. But Mark was a slap in the face to our father. Our mother came to me after her fight with my sister and told me my sister had made accusations against her and Mark, and especially her, and she wanted to know if I thought the same thing of her. I said yes. I told her I wasn't entirely convinced she and Mark had a physical affair. But I refused to believe it was not an emotional one, and it did change how I saw her and did make me feel not great about her marriage and current relationship with Mark. Our mother said it was an awful thing to accuse her of, and how could both of us have such a low opinion of her when she was a great wife to our father and a good mother to us. She told me she hated that I support my sister's accusations when the two of us used to be so close. Am I the antagonist? Sounds like your mom is in major denial and doesn't want to admit to herself that she was in fact an awful wife to your dad. Just cause she can't come to terms with her own mistakes, don't mean you and your sister have to humor her. Not the antagonist. Am I the antagonist for refusing to let my 70-year-old mother ride with me when we were going to the same place? My mother Barb, 70 years old, and I have a challenging relationship. I love her, but I struggle with her. She consumes a lot of far-right news, anti-vaccination beliefs, government conspiracies, etc. I'm pretty low contact with her, and have gone through periods of no contact with her because of her gaslighting, rewriting history. My son, 16 years old, and I, 43 years old, were supposed to go and visit my Aunt Cindy, 55 years old, this weekend, about 6 hours away. She was diagnosed last month with stage 4 bone and lung cancer, and it has devastated our family. My mom likes to visit Cindy as well. However, Barb has a habit of relying on others for rides, which often results in prolonged stays at Cindy's house. 3 weeks ago, during a drive with Barb, I asked her to share driving duties for an hour so I could rest. To my surprise, she refused, citing sudden fatigue and refusing to let my son drive. This left me frustrated and exhausted as I had to drive the entire way without a break. Now, Barb and I each separately planned on going up to visit Cindy and the boys. When Barb found out I was going up the same day, she said, "Oh, that's great. Can I ride with you?" I said no, I think it's best if you take your car as planned and I take my car. That way we will both have our cars and you can leave whenever you need to. She didn't like that answer and pressed me for more. I told her that she didn't help with driving last time, and she wouldn't let my son drive either. She should take her car as planned. She was very angry with me, asked why I hated her so much, and finally yelled that she was sorry that I had such a beef for a mother. It was a weird conversation, but I felt proud that I had been true to my boundaries. That night, Cindy called me. She sounded so weak and sick, and told me that she was shocked that I said no to my mom. I apologized for her having any stress of this to deal with, and that I didn't owe my mom a ride. She was going to drive up on her own and she still can. Cindy said that because of the stress I had caused, that I shouldn't visit her. I was devastated. Being stage 4, she doesn't have long, and this trip was planned back before we even knew about the cancer. Barb said I was acting hateful and that I should post this on Reddit so I would know just how horrible I was being. I said she should stop involving Cindy in our arguments, and she should stop being a freeloader. Aunt Cindy called me later screaming at me that I am horrible. What kind of person wouldn't give a ride to their own mother? That I am selfish, manipulative, and mean, and that my deceased grandmother would be so disappointed in me. I am crushed. I feel like I am allowed to not have to drive someone that I don't want to. Especially if that person has previously been a terrible passenger, they are perfectly able to drive themselves, and their car is working fine. So, let me have it. Am I the worst daughter ever, or was it okay to say no? Your mother's selfish behavior in the car situation is unacceptable. It's clear she twisted the story and caused unnecessary pain to Cindy. Your decision to go low contact or no contact with your mom is completely justified. The way Barb manipulated the situation and forced Cindy to choose sides is despicable. Focus on supporting Cindy during her final days and disregard your mother's toxic behavior. Am I the antagonist for being annoyed at my fiancé for inviting her mother and sisters to visit for 9 days without running it past me? So basically, my fiancé and I have just had my first kid about 2 months ago. It's her third, she has 2 other sons from different dads, and the topic of her visiting her family came up during the Easter break for 4 days. I was all for it as I knew she wanted to visit her elderly grandmother who can't travel. Because money is tight and UK buses are horribly expensive, plus the lack of space for all of us to stay at her parents', she was just gonna go with our baby while I looked after the kids and started my new work-from-home job. Cue yesterday afternoon when going through possible train times and prices and how insane they are. Found out there were strikes during the days she wanted to go originally, because of course, this would likely make the visit be extremely long, 7-8 days, or pretty short. I told her I don't mind if she stays a bit longer and to do whichever she feels most comfortable with. So, she rings her mother to talk about it, and not 5 minutes in suggests she brings my fiancé's 2 sisters and stays for 9 days without discussing it with me in the slightest. Now, I have no problem with her family, they're nice people, but I suffer from a very low social battery at the best of times, and I can't really recharge with someone staying over. Plus, I'm going to be starting a new job, and the last thing I need is a house full of people, and to be expected to play host while I try to navigate my new position. This has happened once before, with her mother and sisters staying for 5 days, and I was struggling by the last day to unwind and getting very stressed. I told her this at the time, to which she apologized and then shortly afterward called her dad, and basically peer pressured me to their place halfway across the country for a week and a half, which ended up causing an argument while there, as I explained she had disregarded my feelings entirely. Her counterpoint was that I hadn't met her family yet, and it was a good opportunity to finally meet them, which led to me trying to swallow my stress and limit my time in the house on errands around the house to distress. I haven't confronted her yet, but I can feel the anger rising at her disregarded for my feelings and not talking to me about her plans first, and being expected to just roll with it. So, am I the asshole for feeling like this? Not the antagonist. Big red flag. She's done this to you before, apologized, but then didn't hesitate to do this to you again. It is normal for couples to talk about these things first. She doesn't seem to care about your feelings. Ask her how she liked being a single mom, and tell her she's going to be one again if she doesn't change the plans. Give some hard thought about whether she'd be better as a co-parent than wife. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.